Hi, welcome to the On Fire Show. My name is Daryl McKell Brooks. I'm one of your hosts here for the show today. And this is our first show, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. It's the New Jersey show. It's for all y'all conservative listeners and viewers. You want to watch, you want to hear some great political talk about current events, national issues, and things about the state of New Jersey. And I'd like to introduce my other host who's on the show, Father Brian McCormick.
How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. Mark Falzine.
Hello, thank you for asking me to join you.
Joe Rafferty.
How are you, Daryl?
How you doing? The handshake. All right.
Oh, we're surrounded by all these
Yeah,
Irishmen.
yes,
now.
shake
What's
hands.
this?
Yes. All right.
Surrounded
Now,
by
you know-
these Irish guys.
Oh yeah, Irish. One of the things that about the show, we want the listeners and the viewers to know all about the host. And we're going to start off with Father Brian McCormick. And, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the audience about yourself, who you are, and what shaped your thoughts of faith.
Well, where I come from is I grew up in Somerville, New Jersey. My dad has an old hotel there, and bumped into all sorts of people as our society was changing, coming from the mines and World War II, older people. So I got a lot of sensitivity to that, and then when I was just ready to go to college, I was put on the spot. Maybe I had to sign a vocation, and I thought I could do more for this gal or any kids I would have if God would want me to do that. And I think about playing professional baseball. Well, you were tiny, so you had to really fight for that. And I could do more in all those if God wanted me to do that. Then I went to seminary and got through and kept my eye focused on making the world a better place or change the world with Jesus. So I had a lot of interesting differences with professors and so on through all my education, which prepared me later for when I got out in the world. I started ordained. I was put in the parish in St. James in Woodbridge. And I did have a very large CYO, had a racial thing going on. I also started a delinquency house for kids who were tending towards delinquency, which is rather fascinating.
What year was this?
That would be between 1966 and 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they were their things. And then, if you remember, things were really up in the air then, and our diocese had a thing called a priest senate they just started. They were supposed to give wisdom into the bishop, and they called for a priest senate. And that senate said they need an experimental ministry to deal with this racial thing. So 3 guys took this thing up and went to work there, and then after 3 years, they had left, and I was asked, would I take it? And I said no the first 3 times. I was very big into what I was challenging, especially family life. But I also thought we were so much into greed, into racism, that someone needed to try an experimental ministry. So I said yes to that, and I went there. And I was there, I went in 1970 till 2012. I created a number of things that were there. We started a very large housing project. We did 167 houses, but the interesting thing is no one ever gets below 40% median income when they're serving. We all say low income, well that's below 50. Go below 40, you got another problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to make it one man to one woman for a lifetime with their kids, and have the man around the house would get involved in the construction things for a number of reasons. I also started a number of building projects that were there. Besides that, we had a preschool, high school equivalency, vocational direction going on.
Mm-hmm.
We also, in doing that, had a little health center for about 10 years. Then we did a homeless shelter for 19 units that were there. All that being done through speaking to people about Christian values, and that was asking people to both work and donate.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was all a part of the Martin House Learning Center.
it all grew from me looking out the window saying, what am I supposed to do here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's where it all
in
grew.
the city.
And Trenton, yes,
In Trenton, New
right in
Jersey.
Trenton, New Jersey, is
Mhm.
where I started from.
Okay.
Yep. So that's, in a nutshell, that's a lot of stuff, so I'll just leave it there.
You're a great man in the city. You name a street after you. Father Brian Boulevard.
No, they got those.
Mark Falzine, good old patriot. Tell us about you and.
All right, I grew up in the slums of New York City.
Mhm.
It was a white Spanish slum.
Mhm.
My best friend was Cuban. My first girlfriends were Puerto Rican.
Mhm.
We were like the Bowery Boys type of thing, little gutter. I was proud to be a gutter snipe back then.
Mhm.
But gutter snipe doesn't have all negative connotations.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm newly retired from IT management. Towards the end of my career, I felt I was the right man at the right place at the right time when, right after 9/11,
Mhm.
where I worked with survivors of Marsh McLennan, so few of them. And folks, you have to see the real story behind what happened upstairs in those buildings before they collapsed. It was not pretty. So I was able to work with their survivors of, again, Dow Jones, Marsh McLennan. We replicated and actually enhanced their network. I was employed by AT&T at the time. I became involved in the Tea Party movement. 2008, I will never forget when Obama gave that speech talking about we need a civilian force as well armed and well equipped and well funded as the military. I mean, all I could think of was the SS, the Stasi, the KGB. I've never seen civilian forces and have a happy ending.
Mhm.
And I've been very active in the Tea Party movement, fighting wherever I can, trying to put thumbtacks down on the road that this leftist vehicle is taking us down, trying to blow her tires out, slow her down, and stop it, because something I impress upon people, socialism is the next to last stop of the people driving this train. The last stop will be full-blown Marxism. And if you don't have a problem with that, maybe you should look at the past 15 years, the history of Venezuela that is unfolding right in front of us. The most prosperous nation in South America, the diamond of the continent, now is becoming a Marxist hellhole. And now, we've seen this story before, so in the case of Venezuela, don't forget, the bloodlust and the bloodletting is just around the corner. Because Marxism, suffering, and barbarity are all in the same bed.
Okay.
So you folks, socialism isn't too bad. I have a lot of children. I interact with a lot of college students. You're obviously not being taught properly. The thing I like to impress upon you is how many hundreds of millions have we witnessed Marxists slaughtering. And I'm not talking about soldiers in the field. We're talking elderly, women, children. It's hundreds of millions.
Okay.
And again, I'll predict this on the air. And no, my name is not Karnak. You don't have to be a soothsayer to see what's around the corner for these poor Venezuelans who unwillingly elected a socialist, thinking, oh, this socialism doesn't sound too bad. Now it's full-blown Marxism. The barbarity is yet to come. And I mean the government barbarity. I'm not talking about the riots in the streets, the fighting over food, the maiming of each other for scraps of food off someone's table. I'm talking about government, manufactured barbarity. It's around the corner.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I know that's got nothing to do with me, but
I
I feel
see you got all,
real
you
strong
got all
about
excited.
this. Yeah.
He got all excited. He got all excited.
I will.
All right, Mark.
Joe, I'm sorry.
Now we're here with Joe Rafferty. Joe Rafferty, tell me about you.
Well, my name is
Tell the audience.
Sure. My name is Joe Rafferty. I'm the Libertarian Party's candidate for Washington Township Council in Gloucester County, not the other township of Washington. I'm a student at Camden County College. I'm a political science major. I've done a little bit of political activism in my own time over the past few years. One of the most notable things I've done would be I wrote a letter to all 50 New Jersey state senators about our atrocious gun laws. The one in particular that allows a police chief to deny a completely law-abiding citizen their right to bear arms without any due process whatsoever. It's completely wrong. I only got one response because none of them want to do anything to stand for the Second Amendment.
Who was that?
Senator Jeff Van Drew.
Okay.
He's actually a Democrat. He's like the one pro-gun Democrat in the New Jersey State Senate.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was impressed. None of the Republicans even responded. So I guess they didn't want to.
Well, they had to
ruffle
check
any
with
feathers.
Chris Christie first, I'm sure, before
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
lifted a finger.
Now,
Yeah, most likely.
now you're a Ron Paul guy too, right?
Yeah, I was I was inspired by Ron Paul. I actually thought probably 5 years ago, well, everyone when they were young, they thought they were, Democrat. Whether you stay Democrat or not is up to you. But I thought I was a Republican because what the Republicans talk about when they give speeches are free people and individual responsibility and free markets. But if you actually study it, what they really stand for and what they enact isn't necessarily that. So I found a party that really does stand for that, and it's the Libertarian Party. And it was Rand Paul and Ron Paul who helped me realize that they were, the libertarian message in the Republican Party is the exception and not the rule.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, definitely. I went to the CPAC convention, I think it was in 2010 when Ron Paul won the CPAC convention. It was awesome.
Yeah, anytime a poll's in that straw poll, they win.
Yeah.
Yeah, look how the Republicans just stepped all over
Yeah.
the Ron Paul candidacy, the dirty tricks that they did at the convention,
Yeah.
one after the other. They were actually behaving like Democrats.
Mhm.
And I want to say, since this is a show, this is one of the reasons I love Donald Trump, because he exposed and has exposed the Republicans for the incognito Obama collaborators that they really are. And I'm very happy 50 people signed their names onto a letter, because great, now we're knowing who the bad guys are. Okay, we got these 50. I'm hoping some other entity within the government of Republicans comes up with more letters so we can identify who they are. They're no longer under the covers.
Yeah.
They're no longer the establishment Republican. No, it's this one and John, and here they are right here. I was surprised to see Tom Ridge on the list.
Oh, wow.
To show you how much they had me fooled.
Mhm.
So, the biggest enemy of the Tea Party movement in New Jersey was the Republicans. The Democrats barely paid us any mind. They tried to stay out of our way. The Republicans were actually aggressive in trying to squash the New Jersey Tea Party movement. They actually tried to abscond with the leadership and take over. And when their frail, transparent attempts failed, then they just set out to ruin the Tea Party. They couldn't run it, they couldn't control it, so plan B was let's just ruin it.
Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about next is the whole political realm, what's happening around the country and around the state of New Jersey. And it's important. I'm going to tell a little bit about myself when I get back, but we're going into a station break, and we'll be right back. This is the On Fire Show. I'm your host, Darrell McKell Brooks, with Father Brian McCormick, Mark Falzine, and
Apple Ridge is about freedom. Apple Ridge is about community. Apple Ridge is about home. Apple Ridge, everything you want, more than you expect. Welcome to your new neighborhood. Apple Ridge Senior Living. Enjoy a maintenance-free, affordable luxury lifestyle today. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and find out more about the Apple Ridge experience.
Hi, welcome back to the On Fire Show. I'm very excited as one of your hosts, and it's been one of these wild things for me, and I enjoy it, and I love it, and we have a great host on the air. We got young and old, middle-aged, seniors, and a teenager, 18-year-old. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Darrell McKell Brooks, born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey, community activist. My hero was Martin Luther King. I used to watch PBS, the PBS Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy's, and the whole political thing growing up as a kid. And getting involved with my cousin's campaign down in St. Mary's, Georgia. He was a Democrat, and I tell everybody his name was Artie Jones Jr. And he used to wear this John Travolta outfit. And he would run for county commissioner.
He had the white suit?
He had a blue suit.
Oh,
He had a blue suit, yeah. But he would win every other year. he would win 2 years, and then next year, 2 years he lose, and then 2 years later he would run an office for and win. And so, one of the things for me, I was in high school. I was in junior high school. I was high school class senator, community college, vice president, student government, black student union president. Even at Camden County College, I started the first African American student government there at Camden County College. And it was exciting, and running for office, running for Congress, running for United States Senate, being part of the Tea Party movement, even checked out the, a lot of the different movements that we've had in the past, I guess, 5 to 6, 7 years. It was these movements that were happening, and it was exciting, and to see the Tea Party movement, and it was awesome to see people come together fighting for freedom and liberty, and that's what I'm talking about the On Fire show. It's important that we fight for liberty. It's important that we fight what we believe in.
So you're countermanding Pelosi's statement that we're AstroTurf?
Oh.
And it's all contrived?
Yeah, well, Nancy Pelosi, she's old news.
Yeah, one Botox over the line, huh?
Now one of the things is, I want to talk about Joe. And, Joe's an 18-year-old, and, you got to tell me about your story. How, you became, you went to high school, got your GED, but then you went to college.
Right, so I think the public school system, it'll either make you a libertarian or a socialist, depending on how you take what they tell you. I always had problems in school, starting around 4th, 5th grade, of bullying. People get bullied. I was the kid who wore like an Ozzy Osbourne shirt, and that's a little different. So you can't, you have to make that person's life miserable. And no matter how many times you go to the school about
no
it.
New Kids on the Block, no other one, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne. And so when you're a little different, people don't know how to take it, and they decide, oh, he's different, so we have to make him miserable. And no matter how many times you go to school, and they insist, like, oh, if you have problems, tell us, and they won't know you came to tell. Well, that's nonsense. So after 3 years of trying with no avail to make it stop, I went to Newman Goretti High School in South Philly. I commuted every day, took the 400 and the 23. Just to get away from it. And I really enjoyed the experience I got in Newman. The only problem was it was $7,000 a year. And so it's really not something that the average person can afford without a real voucher system. So I am a fan, I'm a fan of Milton Friedman's voucher system that would help people who would rather opt out of public school, go to the school of their choosing. I think people should be able to choose that. Parents should be able to choose that. And so because of the price tag, I had to come back to Washington Township High School for 10 years. It was a blast from the not-so-distant past, and nothing had changed. So I decided after 10th grade, I don't want to do 2 more years of this. I got my GED, took the SAT, placed very high in the SAT, and started at Camden County College right after that. And I love every second of it being in college.
So how long have you been in Camden County College?
I'll be going on my 4th semester.
Okay. And you're a political science major, right?
Yeah, political science major.
Oh, that's awesome. And, it's important because, we have a generation of young kids, you're 18 years old, and you're talking about what's happening in society. I mean, you're talking about, different movements that you've seen, that you play, you're definitely the Libertarian Party, the Ron Paul Party, Rand Paul. I mean, it's important. And when they say, well, these young kids today, what do they really know? Do they know anything about politics? And you have an 18-year-old who decided to get his GED, and go on to college, and political science major. I mean, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
lucky you. I didn't even know if they had those courses when I was in college.
Yeah. Wow.
I was just going to say, I think the whole sort of high school mentality, one of the things they make you in high school is a conformist. Like I said, if you're any different, they make your life hell. And so when you're taught to be a conformist, you have what I think was a major contributor to the Bernie Sanders phenomenon, which was a few of the liberals started to like him, and he gradually became the in thing, the cool thing. And so then every kid who had never held a job or seen the deductions out of the paycheck was all of a sudden all for socialist Bernie Sanders. And anytime you encounter one of them, whether it be in person or online, you got the same regurgitated line like, Bernie has hundreds of economists who back his plans, that exact same line, despite the thousands who say, his plans are terrible. Just the same lines, you don't have any real originality from them, and so to be able to find a young person who does independent research or has a contrarian point of view is kind of rare.
Definitely, and it's exciting that I have a guy like you on the show, and I thank you for being a part of the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks
Yes.
for inviting me.
Oh, you'll be here every show. You're part of the show now, and what is this is the On Fire show. We have great hosts that from younger into the older generation. Now, one of the older generation, you have Father Brian McCormick, who's has a lot of history. We talk all the time, Father Brian, about some of the problems that we see right now in our society. We talk about back then when you were growing up and the problems that they had then and the problems that we have now. And if you can kind of compare, or what do you see the differences are in this generation?
Well, I really see the big problem is we don't want to really face the numbers of people there are. And when I was a kid, worked my little dad's hotel. It was a big time just after World War II, and men were coming home whose families disappeared. That's who was residing there. Then right after that, you begin to have the movement of industrial things, and a number of people came from the coal mines to get jobs in the different factories. There was Calco, Johns Manville, and so on. And they were getting relocated there. And then after that, what I saw was some senior citizens who couldn't afford to live where they were living at, and they came to get a house. So I was bumping into all these pulled apart lives. And I think my family and dad were very good to almost everybody, finding a place for them. So that sensitivity made me aware of the extreme changeability of our society. And how do you get people to work together that care for each other? So I was always aware of that. And that's what got me to drift towards. And I always took God very seriously. I really held there wasn't a God. The most important person in the universe was me. What an SOB that would be. In trying to deal with this stuff seriously, where do I fit in with the other, at that time, 3 billion people, not 7.5 billion now? And how do we as human beings each do what we're supposed to do to make this planet and world livable for each other? And we've got to think in much bigger terms. And I'll drop my big bomb on this one. I think we'll end up with probably between 6 and 8 superpowers. It's going to be very interesting how that takes place.
We talked earlier in the car about the problems where, there was always a time where families came together, would go to each other's house, talking about, God was important. People talked about God. God was the number one. There was a moral aspect to a family, and you don't see that anymore. And whether I'm sure it's there, where you have little pockets of a society, and in pockets of around the country, but it's saddening. When you have especially in a city like Camden and Trenton and Newark and other areas where it's that family breakup that you don't hear talking about the God and morals. It's sad.
Well, I'd address the problem this way, the way I see it. When we go out, we really have a problem with, I think our God is really money. And we all chase it, no matter what labels we put on ourselves. Sooner or later we start slipping into it. The way I first came to that was, you guys are too young, but in the 70s there was a thing called redlining. And we need to think about what the banks played in that role, which I can explain later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, and then we'll talk with Mark about the politics of the changing politics of especially the 60s, 70s, 80s, and the 90s.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to ask about 2008 is, I would like to know in the audience who would have suspected that electing a black president would worsen race relations in the country. Now, I, for one, will admit I did not expect that. I actually thought, we finally can put this racism baloney behind us, but no, it's rearing its ugly head again, and it's state sponsored.
Yeah.
It's taxpayer sponsored. You know, I won't forget, you know, when the Trayvon Martin and the Zimmerman thing, first of all, the kid was killed, feel bad for him. There was a confrontation. But then again, like I said, I grew up in the slums. We saw a lot of that going on.
Yeah, but we want to get right back. We got to take a commercial break. We'll be
Okay,
right
yeah,
back.
we'll pick right up.
We'll be
You
right
got
back.
it,
This is
sir.
a commercial break. This is the On Fire Show. I'm the host, Darryl McKell Brooks, with Father Brian McCormick, Mark Falzine, and Joe Rafferty. We'll be right back.
Apple Ridge is about freedom. Apple Ridge is about community. Apple Ridge is about home. Apple Ridge, everything you want, more than you expect. Welcome to your new neighborhood. Apple Ridge Senior Living. Enjoy a maintenance-free, affordable luxury lifestyle today. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and find out more about the Apple Ridge experience.
Choosing the right fence for your home or business is an important decision to make. Choose Anello Fence for peace of mind. Our family has manufactured and installed beautiful maintenance-free fence for over 50 years. We provide vinyl, aluminum, and wood fence in a wide variety of styles and colors, including chain link fence for commercial and residential. Call or visit our indoor showroom and ask for Steve Anello and see how 4 generations of combined experience mean that you'll get quality and service that can't be matched by any other fencing company, period. Call Anello Fence today for a free estimate.
Fire Show. I'm one of your hosts, Darryl McKell Brooks. I'm here with Mark Falzine and Father Brian McCormick and Joe Rafferty. And we were talking, you know, about the difference of politics, and especially in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and you know, and now. And when you look at, you know, people always talk about the two. When you had moderate politics, when you had candidates like Tip O'Neill and Reagan, they were, you know, you didn't have the extreme left, you didn't have the extreme right. You had individuals like working for the whole of America.
Yeah, even more recently, you had Gingrich and Clinton.
Yeah.
You had Gingrich, Speaker of the House Republican,
Mhm.
Clinton, Democrat. Clinton, I've joked, he was one of the best Republican presidents of the 20th century because he was just signing whatever that Republican legislation put in front of him. He was just signing them up. You know, they did welfare reform. They did so much that actually, and you saw how it helped the country, that we actually had a surplus one year. You believe in a year now where we're running, when Obama first came in, over $1 trillion deficits. Now they're 500 billion, 600 billion. Could you imagine a budget surplus? Somebody even entering that into the vocabulary? They won't see
Now,
that.
tell me, what was it like during that whole the Reagan era of
Well,
Tip O'Neill and Reagan?
Here's what I saw. I started working a new job like January 1980, just when Reagan came in. And the country was as dispirited and ununited as it is now. We had Carter. Now, don't forget, we had high unemployment, very high interest rates, high gasoline prices. Money was very difficult to get for loans and whatnot because, again, the rates were so high. The term that was used was malaise. Reagan came in like a breath of fresh air. Also, what had happening at the end of Carter's administration, we had the open wound of the Iranian hostage situation, which is why older folks like myself are a bit more less tolerant and accepting of the Iranians, because for an entire year we watched our fellow Americans dragged through the mud by what to me looked like barbaric, uncontrollable mobs. Was the film we were seeing. So there's that aspect of it, that we were flat on our backs. Ronald came in, and the thing I tell young people...
Morning in America.
Yeah, well, not only that, you have to live in an economy where, last month we added 1.6 million jobs. We added 970,000 jobs in a month. Instead of, and it's not just Obama, it was Bush too towards the end, 55,000 jobs. If they have 200,000 jobs, they're all, clanking the champagne glasses.
Yeah.
When you saw Reagan, I remember months consecutively, over 1 million jobs added a month. You didn't have to worry about the minimum wage. That was a non-issue because there were so many jobs. They had to offer higher salaries to fill them. So the minimum wage wasn't even a discussion, because if someone offered you minimum wage, they wouldn't have any employees. There wouldn't be anyone there.
Wow, and we're seeing a changing society, and we all, we're all a part of. We're all politically educated. We all see what's happening in the current events happening today, and well, I'm afraid it's scary out there, and the type of society we have. And we, I know Father Bryant, and I think me and Joe, we talked about that. Some of the things last night, and we had the discussions about, the society is changing overnight, and it's not a good thing at all.
Yeah,
and
if I could just jump in, I
Yeah.
wanted to say, back with Kennedy, Reagan, whatever, you had a sort of different litany of issues that were on the table, and like whether or not people got to be free was not really one of the issues being debated. Kennedy said that government is the servant of man, not his master.
Yeah.
Hard to see a Democrat say that in the modern age. So when we didn't have debates where, do you have the right to defend yourself against an attacker? Do you have the right to defend your family? Are you entitled to your own earnings? These were not up for debate. Do you have the right to choose your own health care, your own schools? Should you have to pay for somebody else's way? Except for in, rare case like someone who's really hungry, but should you have to pay for someone else to go to college? These weren't issues like, should we steal from, Peter to give to Paul? It wasn't really like that. People didn't feel like their rights were under attack if the guy they liked lost. And I feel like people have that now. Like, all the Republicans are like, the Democrats are coming for our rights. And the Democrats go, the Republicans are coming for our rights. It's just a sad
Do you
state
understand,
of
young man,
affairs.
why this goes on? We have to rob from Peter to pay Paul, because in between Peter and Paul is a little entity called the government and establishment of crony capitalism.
Yeah.
And the money does not go directly from Peter to Paul. It has to be funneled through the James gang, or whatever you want to call them this day and age. There's 5 crime families in this country. We're going to have to recognize that we actually have 6. And the 6th one is located in Washington, D.C. It's not Little Italy. It's not Patterson. It's not Las Vegas. It's D.C. And I believe these criminals in D.C. put the other 5 crime families to shame with the magnitude of wealth they are pillaging.
And as you see with the Department of Education, states will send, it was Gary Johnson who made this point, states will
Now
send
Gary
15
Johnson
cents.
is running for president, right?
Yeah, he's the Libertarian candidate.
Libertarian,
He
right.
made the point, as governor of New Mexico, he would have to send 15 cents to Washington, D.C. for the Department of Education. They gave New Mexico back 11 cents worth of value. So to lose 4 cents on 15 cents to what? Be told how to run your schools? It doesn't work. It's just to pad the pockets of some bureaucrats. It's not making education better. In fact, it's making it, it's making kids be treated like they're test subjects. Take these tests, take 6 standardized tests a year, spend a month preparing for each one, and in between maybe we'll get to a little bit of learning.
Now, Father Brian, you worked with a lot of young kids, especially in the Trenton kids. What was it like? The kids say about education. What were they like? And especially in the 70s, where you had a lot of turmoil. You've been a part of. You talked about the riots in Trenton that took place, and what were the kids like, especially educated-wise?
I wasn't dealing with the educated ones.
Oh, yes, you was. No.
You were there? No.
No, but I'm sure.
The question I'd be bumping into is the kids on East State Street, that whole, what I call the Wilbur section. And the question would be to keep them interested in school once you start moving past puberty. Everybody was changing. I had my little girl's religion class. 2 little girls came in who were 12, who had never been off their front porch by themselves. And I think the other question is then, since they have no aura of where we're trying to go, the only aura you have attraction is that when you do well and get complimented. So a kid that's really smart, school makes sense, sports makes sense. Then this running wild starts to take over. When I first came there, they used to rob the trains on consignment. They were down there, everything was going. I mean, I was up in a tree one time, had my Boy Scouts make a little garden, and I could see the kids taking one time there was the go-go boots, one time was the thing going up and down the street. That's the atmosphere they were bumping into. So paying attention to school was another whole issue. So the thing I bumped into, remember I'm not an educator or all that kind of stuff. I didn't have much use for Boy Scouts when I started Boy Scouts. It was little skill badges. We had to read the instructions, understand instructions, follow instructions, and complete. Now you're talking about our grade. We're not talking about the big educational. If they don't get those little habits, they can't achieve anything. And I remember wrestling with a couple of dads that were there, that they should help their kids. And what happens is, Dad would say to me, well, that's, that takes a lot of, I gotta work at it. Well, you don't have to work any more than your kid does. That's the example they need to begin to show them the direction they ought to have. And so when I worked on the houses, it was the same thing. I'd have the kids come in, and kids before 13, I let them work, and then we go for lunch and get a McDonald's for $1.
Yeah.
That was a thing. And then the older kids, you go after lunch and start trying to push them to gain real skills.
Mhm.
I'd still like to bring up that thing about I think our real problem is not the parties. Everybody is greedy. Two forms of greed. I'm getting it, or powers where I'm going.
Yeah.
So when I went to do the housing, I got involved in this redlining.
Mhm.
Redlining is, for those who don't know, the banks put a circle around an area, and they all agreed not to put any money in there.
Mhm.
So I usually use this man's name in public in this corporation. I won't do it here because he's deceased now. But I went up and said, so and so, as a Christian, you know this is going on, and somehow we have to beat that. So I'm suggesting that you give us your price when it hits your dock, and the guy's already here. They just do some time.
Mhm.
So he said, well, Father, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you my price 10% above it. Okay. Well, I found out that was a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% discount.
Wow.
All right, and the question is, we run our society, we're all part of it. We want our salaries, we got to think what we're participating in the bigger picture.
Mhm.
And I call it extortionate profit and usury.
Oh, wow.
Very clear. And then how do you begin as people, if you want to reach the poor down here? It ain't just taxing more, and give us more salaries up over here, which we might not deserve, and it doesn't get here. And that problem's never going to be solved. It's going to be how we initiate it.
Mhm.
And this man was going to do that. That little effort saved me 2 days a week shopping. I also did the physical work. I didn't talk all the time. So I had to get the house done. I equated the dollars and cents and the timelines and the thing to the exact thing that had to happen.
You know, one of the things that we're going to be talking about in the show about the society, with education, we have, 50 to 60% dropout rate. We have our young kids today, they're graduating from high school, they're not capable of working in today's technical jobs. There was one host that said that these are our service workers kids. The only thing their kids are capable of doing by the time they finish high school, not all, but too many, working at Walmart, working at McDonald's, and that's about it. So the idea is, on this next couple of shows, the idea is, how do we, try to change society? How do we, people listening and watching the show, they learn. And this, I definitely want this, the show to be the learning show. Where we talk about these serious issues and we try to make some definitely changes. We want our kids to come out of high school, scientists, mathematics, geniuses, discover the new ideas. And, there are definitely new ideas. There's always that next generation, and we have one right here who decided to, I'm going to take it to the next level.
Yeah, but there has to be corporations.
Yeah.
And a private sector
Mm-hmm.
to pay those salaries.
Mhm.
See, this is one of the political, societal differences I see now.
Mhm.
Is I'm going to call capitalism the golden goose,
Mhm.
and you can only take so much blood and beat that golden goose until, guess what? There's going to be no more gold. It's something I suggest to the socialist. You better go a little easy on the golden goose. No, we don't want to tax these companies to death because these companies employ us.
Mhm.
They're very important. Now, the thing you also have to understand, the younger generation, that capitalism is the new, radical, revolutionary way of life for the average man. Because thousands of years before that, no economic system or very few entities permitted you to improve yourself socially and monetarily.
Yeah.
Capitalism does that. Now, why do you think the United States has this wealth that everyone wants. You know, we have the global warming racketeers want American money. We have the, crony capitalists want American money. Admit it, we have goof-offs in this country of every race. They want your money. There is a finite amount of money unless that golden goose is nurtured and taken care of. Because, again, if she runs out of money, what's going to happen in this country if, like myself, I'm on Social Security. What's going to happen? My Social Security isn't deposited. Your EBT cards aren't backed. Your rent isn't paid. What happens to society then? All of this wealth is there because of capitalism. Now, am I saying unbridled capitalism? No. We all know there's a lot of greedy, cheap people out there that have to be reined in. There have to be boundaries and laws. But capitalism on a whole is the new thing. It's the new shiny thing. Socialism was around before capitalism. It doesn't work. Something I like to impress on the young kids. What is socialism now? 0 and 27. 0 success stories, 27 gruesome, barbaric, poverty-ridden failures. That's what socialism gives you. That's the scorecard.
And you're right, and we're going to talk about that next week on our next show. I'd like to thank everybody for watching the show. Thank my host. One of the things is that we're going to be talking about a lot of serious issues on education. We're going to talk immigration issues and housing and political. We definitely didn't go in to talk about Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and what we're happening in our society today. And those are exciting things that we definitely need to talk about. We haven't talked about we're going to talk about the Independent Party. Parties, the Gary Libertarian, Gary Johnson, and the Socialist Party, the Green Party. What's
the name? Jill Stein?
There's two socialist parties.
Jill Stein,
There's the actual Socialist Party and the Green Party.
Yeah, the Green Party. So we're going to talk about all these political issues and problems that are happening in our society and try to answer them, give the people answers, and watch the show because it's going to be more exciting. And we're going to talk about a lot of things that people around New Jersey and talk shows are not talking about. But I'd like to thank you all for watching our first show, and it's been an exciting show. And I'd like to thank my host, Father Brian McCormick, Mark Falzine, and Joe Rafferty. And I'm Darrell McKell Brooks, and we'll see you next week. God bless.